Segment 1. Western nations finally try something new. Recognizing Palestine, maybe? Well, folks, it's July 31, 2025, and the world just might be on the brink of a diplomatic mood swing. 3 G7 nations, France, the UK, and now Canada, have decided to recognize Palestine. Yes, you heard that right. Canada is officially ready to say, why not? But only if the Palestinian Authority pinky swears to hold elections and leaves Hamas out of the RSVP list. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced his plan to recognize Palestine in September. That's right, Canada is setting an appointment with international diplomacy like it's a dentist visit. We'll recognize your statehood, but only after a good cleaning and no signs of cavities or Hamas. Meanwhile, France and the UK have already put in their pre-orders for Palestinian recognition. Malta, too, because nothing says global consensus like a tiny island nation joining the geopolitical party with a bottle of red wine and a plate of cannoli diplomacy. Now, of course, Israel didn't love this. In fact, they were so upset they might have filed it under terrorist rewards and sent it straight to voicemail. Israeli officials called Canada's move a reward for Hamas, which is like calling a fire extinguisher a gift to the arsonist. Subtlety, not a regional strong suit. And then there's the United States, standing around like the one kid at the birthday party refusing to sign the card. President Donald Trump warned Canada that this could mess with the U.S.-Canada trade deal because nothing says international peacekeeping like a tariff tantrum. The PA responded with what could only be described as, sure, we'll do the homework if it means getting into the Model UN Club. They promised elections, demilitarization, and fewer awkward meetings with armed factions. Even Canadian Muslims applauded the move, but also said, cool, now how about cutting off weapons to Israel and maybe a sanctions package with some maple syrup on top? Look, when France, the UK, and Canada start changing long-held foreign policy like it's a group text with passive-aggressive read receipts, you know the old U.S. playbook is being ghosted. This is like the West version of we're not mad, we're just disappointed. Only instead of grounding anyone, they're giving them a state and a UN seat. Segment 2. Ukraine. Missiles, drones, and anti-corruption whiplash. In Ukraine, it was a day of extremes. Russia sent in 300 drones and 8 missiles, while Ukraine responded with legislative reform. Because if you can't stop missiles, at least you can stop government grift. Kiev looked like the aftermath of a particularly angry Transformer reunion. Buildings were reduced to pancakes, 6 people were confirmed dead, over 80 injured, and many are still unaccounted for. One apartment complex collapsed like a Jenga tower during an earthquake-themed game night. Meanwhile, in the middle of all this carnage, Ukraine's parliament passed a bill restoring the independence of their anti-corruption agencies. That's right, Zelensky giveth power, taketh it away, and now hath giveth it back. Last week, he tried to put NABU and SAPO under the prosecutor general's thumb, and Ukrainians responded with good old-fashioned democracy, yelling in the streets. It worked. Zelensky reversed course faster than a politician caught Venmoing a Russian oligarch. The EU applauded the move like proud parents at a middle school talent show. Look, he's walking back corruption just like we taught him. There was even a physical scuffle between lawmakers during the live stream session, because what's anti-corruption without some pro-fisticuffs? Honestly, Ukraine fighting corruption while fighting Russia feels like trying to file your taxes while being mugged. Yes, officer, he took my wallet, but can I still claim it as a deduction? Segment 3, Gaza aid and accusations. You get a genocide, you get a genocide. Over in Gaza, things have gone from bad to biblical. Reports say 30 Palestinians were killed by Israeli troops while waiting for aid. The IDF said they fired warning shots, which apparently in military terms means aim near the breadline. Meanwhile, human rights groups in Israel, yes, in Israel, just dropped reports saying that what's happening in Gaza isn't just a tragedy, it's a genocide. You know things are serious when Israeli organizations are calling out their own government like it's Festivus and grievances must be aired. Physicians for Human Rights Israel said the IDF is essentially deleting Gaza's healthcare system. 1,500 doctors killed, over 300 detained. I mean, we've all had bad hospital visits, but this is like canceling the concept of medicine itself. And B'Tselem came out swinging with a report called Our Genocide. Not exactly subtle. They claim Israel is targeting not just civilians, but the very fabric of Palestinian society, winnowing 14,000 women, orphaning 40,000 children, and basically carpet bombing family trees. Even major Jewish organizations in the U.S. are chiming in. Most are saying Israel must maintain its moral standing, while AIPAC is still waiting on Hamas to fold like a poker player with a bad hand and a rocket launcher. It's complicated, it's messy, and everyone's playing moral twister on a board that keeps catching fire. Segment 4, tariffs, sanctions, and a trade deal personally signed by Trump's ego. In economic news, President Trump's trade strategy has evolved from America first to everyone else. Take a number. First up, Brazil, where Trump slapped a whopping 50% tariff on most exports. The official reason? Brazil's government and its pesky habit of prosecuting Jair Bolsonaro are apparently messing with American free speech. Let me repeat that. Brazil puts Bolsonaro on trial, and Trump retaliates by declaring economic emergency. If that's the new standard, then France better be careful what it says about Mar-a-Lago's catering, or they'll lose Brie privileges. Trump even sanctioned a Brazilian Supreme Court justice. Yeah, the guy overseeing Bolsonaro's case. That's like grounding the referee because your quarterback threw 3 interceptions. But wait, South Korea got the golden goose. A brand new trade deal with the U.S., and Trump himself gets to personally select the $350 billion in Korean investments. It's like The Apprentice, Trade Edition. Seoul, you're hired. In return, South Korea gets slapped with only a 15% tariff, which, in Trump terms, is basically a bear hug. South Korea also agreed to buy $100 billion in American LNG, or as Trump likely calls it, liquid nice gas. And then there's India, dear, sweet, tariff-loving India, whacked with a 25% tariff plus a penalty. Trump said they have the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers, which is rich coming from a guy whose legal defenses involve waving at documents and yelling presidential immunity. The Trump doctrine is clear. If you're mean to his buddies, you get tariffs. If you're nice to him and give him control over billions of dollars, you get a handshake and a "you're doing great, sweetheart." Segment 5. The UK economy is, well, very British about it. Across the pond, the British pound just had its worst month in nearly 2 years. The only thing dropping faster in the UK than the pound is public enthusiasm for soggy chips and boiled everything. The Bank of England is about to cut interest rates, which makes sense when your currency is dropping like a tea tray off the Tower of London. Inflation is hanging above 3%, and economic growth is projected at a very sexy 1%. Economically, Britain is performing like a sleepy contestant on Bake Off, earnest, charming, but barely rising. Sectoral stress is also the new national pastime. Automotive, chemicals, and metals industries have been downgraded from high risk to very high risk, which is business speak for abandon ship, but politely. Oh, and if that weren't enough, hundreds of flights across UK airports were delayed or canceled because of a mysterious technical failure, which, given the state of British infrastructure, could mean anything from a Y2K-era fax machine rebooting to a badger chewing through the broadband line. The UK is proving that you can have economic chaos and miss your vacation flight to Spain. Now that's what I call multitasking. Segment 6, NVIDIA, China, and the world's most passive-aggressive chip fight. In tech news, China just summoned NVIDIA like it was a rebellious teenager coming home past curfew. The Cyberspace Administration of China demanded answers about backdoor security risks in NVIDIA's chips, apparently worried these tiny silicon squares can track users or remotely shut things down. Now, if this sounds like China suddenly becoming the cybersecurity police, remember, this is the same country whose apps track your dog's daily walk and rank it by loyalty to the state. Meanwhile, over in the U.S., national security experts are flipping out because the Trump administration is letting NVIDIA sell AI chips in China again. 20 former officials penned a letter basically saying, "Are you nuts? These things could power Chinese killer robots." The chip in question, the H2O, apparently does inference tasks better than even the banned H100, which is tech speak for really, really good at helping computers guess what happens next, including in military scenarios. So now we've got dual-use technology in a global custody battle. America says, no chips for the PLA. China says, just checking the warranty. This is why the U.S.-China rivalry has now upgraded from a trade war to an AI custody dispute. Who gets the kid with the 12 trillion parameters? And does it come with TikTok? Segment 7, Africa's triple tragedy, crisis, chaos, and fuel protests. Let's not forget what's happening in Africa. In Sudan, at least 13 children died of malnutrition in East Darfur. That's not just tragic, it's the kind of failure that shouldn't exist in 2025. If you can 3D print a steak in space, no kid should be starving on Earth. In DR Congo, M23 rebels killed 169 people in an attack on farmers and civilians. Rebels are attacking farmers. That's like burning down a food bank and calling it meal planning. And in Angola, protests over rising fuel prices turned deadly. 22 people killed, including a police officer. When your gas tank becomes a political protest, it's safe to say your economy has stalled out harder than a moped in a monsoon. These aren't just local tragedies. They're symptoms of a world that sees certain suffering as background noise while arguing over chip specs and tariff math. Segment 8. Meanwhile in America, dogs, Pokemon heists, and interstate mayhem. Let's come home for a moment, where life is somehow both tragic and cartoonishly weird. In Florida, a 5-month-old baby was killed by a 130-pound Great Dane. Yes, a real dog, no, not the villain from a horror movie reboot. A family pet. The dog is now in custody. Seriously, Volusia County Animal Services has him, probably under house arrest with a milk-bone tracking bracelet. In Detroit, 2 children were shot. A semi-truck jackknifed and shut down I-696. Another guy got flung from a car and then hit by a passing vehicle on I-94, all before lunch. Detroit's crime report is starting to look like a Mad Lib written by GTA developers. Oh, and someone stole $50,000 in Pokemon cards in Sterling Heights. Because in America, even our crimes have nostalgia. Somewhere, a grown man in a Pikachu onesie is laughing maniacally, yelling, "Gotta catch 'em all," on eBay. It's comforting to know that while the world unravels diplomatically and economically, we here at home still have high-speed chases, dog crimes, and nerd heists. God bless us, everyone. Segment 9, Conclusion. A day of diplomatic divorce, economic temper tantrums, and the global group project that's definitely failing. So, what did we learn from July 31, 2025? That recognizing Palestine is suddenly the new hot international trend, with France, the UK, Canada, and Malta deciding it's time to leave the United States on red and go rogue with diplomacy. The U.S., meanwhile, is clutching its trade agreements like a grandma clutches coupons, screaming, "We said no until Hamas is out of the picture," while its allies collectively swipe left. We learned that Ukraine is still under brutal assault from Russia, but in between drone barrages, they managed to pull off legislative reforms like they're auditioning for Democracy's Got Talent. Honestly, give that parliament a standing ovation, and maybe a bunker. Gaza continues to teeter on the brink of unlivability, with human rights reports from within Israel dropping the G word, genocide, like it's not a bombshell but a bullet point. This is the part of the global crisis where everyone agrees it's awful, but no one agrees on who's responsible or how to fix it without making it worse. Africa remains a tragic footnote in the global conversation as hundreds die in Congo, children starve in Sudan, and Angolans protest fuel prices with their lives. But don't worry, the international community is sending thoughts, prayers, and probably a strongly worded PDF. The global economy? It's a flaming tug-of-war between Trumpian tariffs and desperate trade deals. Brazil gets whacked, India gets jabbed, and South Korea gets a deal so custom Trump might as well have monogrammed it. The UK, meanwhile, is slipping into economic molasses, clinging to a pound that has the strength of a paper straw and a Brexit milkshake. And in the background, the tech Cold War simmers. China's calling NVIDIA into the principal's office for suspicious chip behavior, while American officials scream they're going to use them for Skynet. Welcome to the New World Order, brought to you by AI anxiety and semiconductor paranoia. All of this while the U.S. juggles Great Dane tragedies, Pokemon grand larceny, and highways that look more like demolition derbies than transportation routes. Folks, if July 31, 2025 proves anything, it's this. Global diplomacy is unraveling faster than Elon Musk's last tweet. Economic policy is just high-stakes improv, and human suffering remains the only consistent metric across continents. So hug your loved ones, keep your Pokemon cards under lock and key, and maybe, just maybe, don't let the dog babysit. We'll be back tomorrow with more Klepper's Corner, where the world continues to fall apart, one baffling headline at a time.